Hi everyone, Grandmaster Ben Finegold here. Please visit our website for the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta, hclchessclub.com, and consider making a donation. Remember, no donation is too large. Also follow me on Twitter and Facebook, Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta, CCSCA. And keep coming with the comments, and I'll see how fast I can delete them. Okay. So we're going to go back in time to the year 2000. I had black against Grandmaster Arthur Bisguier in the World Open. And I used to play in the World Open a lot between, I would say, 1985 and 2003. I probably played in more than half of them. And maybe 2003 was my last one, something like that. That's not really a tournament for me anymore because I can't win a good prize and I can't get a norm because I don't need norms. So I just have little kids beating up on me. But when I wanted to get IM or GM norms and I wanted to win money, then it's a good tournament. Okay, so I'm black against Bisguier, plays e4. I played Bisguier maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. Play him every few years. c5, Sicilian. And he played bishop b5. Now, many years ago, I'm going to say 1988, and if it's not 1988, it's 1989. I think it was 88. In the New York Open, I was white against Jay Whitehead, and Jay played the move e6. And the thing is, I don't really play e4 very often, especially in the late 80s, so I didn't really know anything. I was just, playing something. And I got beat really badly. And I liked the way that Jay played. And so I just played like he does. And I've been doing it ever since. So the idea behind e6, because also common, of course, is the move g6. These are the two most common moves. Is you're going to play knight e7 and possibly take back with the knight on c6. And if not, you're going to do plan B, which I was able to do this game. Obviously, you can't take back with the knight when they take right away. So take with the b pawn. And after castles, I may have castled against Jay Whitehead, or I may have played knight c3. I'm not sure. He played knight e7. And the idea is actually to do what I did in this game, which is to play knight g6 and e5, and eventually get a huge pawn center going. And if you have a nice pawn center with the 2 bishops, you should have an advantage. So Bisguier played in a very passive, solid way, which I think gives black the advantage. People play pretty aggressively with white here. They're throwing e5 in, and they're playing b3, bishop b2, and some of them are playing h4. Then when you play knight g6, they play h5. So all kinds of crazy, wild stuff is happening. But he played very solid and boring like he likes to do, d3. Knight a3, which I've never faced before. Obviously, the knight wants to go to c4. So I could play d5, but then after the move e5, my bishop on c8 isn't very good. So normally what I like to do is I like to play e5 first myself. In fact, if I was playing this game, so maybe I would play e5. I guess the idea is if I play e5 now, he probably wants to attack my pawn, and then he can maneuver his knight to f5 quickly. It's probably his plan. Okay, so I played bishop e7, which, I can play f5, e5, or d5 later. Knight c4. And I can't play e5 now because he just takes it. So I played queen c7. And after rook e1, I'm actually surprised at the move that I made. But actually, I guess it makes sense now because it seems like I wanted to play e5. But then his knight could go to f5. So I played the move d5. And the thing is, he's not going to take my pawn since my pawns are doubled. He doesn't want to undouble my pawns. But now when he moves his knight, he's blocking his rook. And it would seem sort of silly to play knight to d2, because then his knight, that would be even sillier. Because then his that's also silly. I'm going to get it right this time. 3rd time lucky. Seems like this maneuver with the knight isn't really as good as just going there in one move. Okay, so knight e3. That's probably why I played d5 there. I wanted his knight to block his rook. I castled. So at some point in these openings, sometimes black sacrifices a pawn with c4 so that his bishop can get open and you don't have these double pawns. Sort of makes room for both bishops. So he put the kibosh on that. He played c4. Okay, and once again, I don't want to move my pawn from d5. It's nice there. It puts pressure on his pawns, and I'd like him to take on d5 at some point, undouble my pawns. So I play bishop b7. Okay, then once again, I'm still not totally prevented from, doing some kind of pawn pushes in the center and gaining space. So he wants to keep everything blocked up because the old adage, knights are better than bishops in blocked positions. Once the position gets open, my bishops are going to rule. Unfortunately, his knights are blocking everything. This knight on e3 is blocking his bishop. It's blocking his rook. I don't think that's a good square for his knight. Okay, he played queen c2, and I wanted to play on the king side eventually, as I've been espousing. So I played rook a to e8. He played bishop to d2. Well, the game is pretty boring. And as I've said in many videos before, and when I do live commentary and in private lessons, and when I'm asleep, and after I die, and before I was born, and before you were born, and before the earth existed, that's how often I've said this. Often, games that are very boring in the beginning turn out super exciting, and games that are super exciting in the beginning sort of peter out to a draw. And this, this tells the tale, because this is a really boring position. And in 10 moves, you're not going to say that anymore. Okay, so bishop to d6. So got a nice battery going here. My knight's looking good. I just unblocked my rook. Man, I'm great. Okay, and he played knight f1. So if you're a very high-rated player, you can follow the path of the knight that he played this game. It's probably not the typical path to f1. Most people would just do it in 2 moves. Okay. And the knight to f1 makes sense because he unblocks his bishop and unblocks his rook that I was complaining about before. He defends h2 again, and maybe he can play knight g3 later. Knight f1 makes sense. Okay, it's time to open up the position for our bishops, and the reason that I played rook ae8 and kept my other rook on f8 was I'm going to move my f-pawn. If I don't move my f-pawn, why is my rook on f8? So I played f5. Okay, I want to get things opened up, obviously. And yeah, this seems really nice for black. I have a lot of pawns in the center. I have 2 bishops. My pieces are all coordinated. And white is very passive. Okay, he took on f5. And I took with the rook. I'm ready to sacrifice the exchange. Because, I was young then. What did I know? Played knight g5, quote unquote, attacking my e-pawn. And I was very nervous about that, so I didn't defend it. I played h6. If you play knight g5 to attack someone's e-pawn and they play h6, you should take it. If you don't take it, you made a bad move. So he didn't take it because obviously his knight is trapped on e6. So therefore knight g5 wasn't a very good move. So after knight takes, now again, this game was played 17 years ago, so I don't know what I was thinking exactly. I can tell you what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking Arby's. I could attack his knight more than one way. I guess I could go to either c8, d7, or f7. One of the advantages of going to c8, which looks very silly, is that if we trade on d5, my c-pawn is defended. So for example, after queen c8, if we trade, he can't play knight takes c5 here because the queen takes. So I'm not sure if I was going to play queen c8 or if I was going to play something like queen f7 and let him take on c5 because then his f-pawn is hanging. And I could pin his knight to his queen. So I'm not sure what I would have done. Good question. Probably knight takes e6 is even playable. But, okay, Arthur Bisguier, even when he was much younger, didn't really like sharp games. He liked to outplay his opponent slowly. And that was especially true when he was in his 50s and 60s. So he's not looking for a sharp battle against somebody who's 30 years younger than he is. Okay, so going back to f3 doesn't make any sense. He went back to h3 because now he's at least saving his knight. I can't sacrifice for it. And he's defending f2. And he's defending the f4 square with 2 pieces, which is a square that a lot of my pieces can try to go to. Okay, and finally I did my plan, which is to push all my center pawns, and I played e5. And my game looks pretty good. Okay, he played rook e3, a rook lift, which I don't recommend. And after rook f8, he played rook g3, the point of rook e3. Yeah, that's not a good square for his rook because my bishop's on that diagonal. So I don't like that idea. Okay, I played queen f7, and defending my knight and putting pressure on f2 and tripling on the f-file. Sounds good when I say it. Okay, he played knight e3. And I played rook h5 because my rook's attacked. And I don't know if he had the losing move here. He's already losing. His game doesn't look very good. But he's definitely losing after his next move. I don't know. I'm guessing that I'm already winning here. His position doesn't make a lot of sense. I have a lot attacking his king. My bishops are good. His rook on a1 is useless. His queen on c2 is useless. His knight on h3 is not well placed. So, yeah, this looks really bad for white. Okay, he played rook f3. And I'm sure if I just move my queen, I have an advantage, but I was young and brash. So I played the quote-unquote crazy move, making the game less boring for you at home. Queen takes f3. He took my queen, and I took his knight. And you can see that not only do I have a rook and a piece for a queen, but I have a lot of pressure on f3, so I'm definitely getting at least a pawn. And I have a lot of pressure on h2 with my rook and bishop. And my knight on g6 has a couple of good squares. I don't even know which is better. And I don't really see anything for white to do. White has a queen, but his queen's not too good. So, yeah, this game is not very good here. I don't know. To me, it makes sense to play queen b3 because that puts pressure on two of my guys here. So that's probably what I would have done. He played sort of a wild and crazy move, d4, shocking the audience. Are you guys okay now? And that's called a discovered attack because the pawn's not on d3 anymore, so he's attacking my knight. Unfortunately, I don't think opening the center is a good idea with my bishops both pointed towards his king. I don't think he wants my pawns to disappear. Then my bishops will be really strong. Okay, so knight h4. And this has to be already completely over because you can't really stop knight takes f3 check. Wow, that's going to be strong. So d4 didn't really make a lot of sense, forcing my knight to go to a better square. Okay, he took on c5. I took on f3 with check. Obviously, he can't play king h1 because rook h2 is mate. And if king g2, rook h2 is check. So he played king f1. Okay, and I took back on c5. And I got everything. I have lots of threats. The material is balanced. I have a rook, a bishop, and a pawn for a queen. My opponent has two isolated pawns. His rook on a1 still hasn't moved. And I have all my pieces attacking. So the game's just winning. Played knight g4, defending his h-pawn, but I took it anyway. And, yeah, not a good position. So I'm wondering what I would have done on king g2. I want to sacrifice some more. It's hard to believe that it doesn't work. He played knight takes h2, but king g2. No, I guess I don't have to sacrifice. I could just play rook h4. Okay, that must have been my plan. And then if knight takes, I have this winning move here. Yeah, and this is just completely over. Okay, so that's why he didn't play king g2. So he played knight takes h2. I took back. Ha! I tricked you. I didn't take back. I took on f2 with check. Taking back would win, but this just wins more. King e1, and rook takes h2. And here, I think the only move that makes any sense for white is long castle. But you guys at home seem afraid to play that. And even though you're going to think I'm kidding, because occasionally I'm kidding, I'm not kidding. I actually looked at long castle, even though it's illegal, because then I can play rook takes d2 and bishop e3 and still win. So when your best move is an illegal move and it still gets completely crushed, that's a good time to resign. Obviously, I'm threatening rook h1 mate. Rook h1 mate's a good move. If you can stop rook h1 mate, you're a better chess player than I am. I'm also threatening rook takes d2, which wins, and I'm threatening bishop to e3 and bishop to b4, which win. And I'm sure king h8 wins too, but I'm just kidding. So here, I'm guessing if you turned on an engine, it would say either mate or it would say something like plus 12. I'm just guessing. If it says plus 50, don't write nasty comments. And here my opponent resigned. So that game got a lot more exciting from the first 10 moves. Now, what's funny about this game was played in round 2. Of course, I don't remember that, but my computer says it was played in round 2, so it's probably telling the truth. And I remember near the end of the tournament, possibly after the tournament, but somewhere near the end, a friend of mine said, "Wow, that was a great game you played where you sacrificed your queen." And I had no idea what he was talking about. I was like, I sacrificed my queen this tournament? And I couldn't remember the game he was talking about. But he was obviously talking about this game, since I sacrificed my queen. Although, since I got a rook and a piece and a mating attack and all of his pawns, I didn't really consider it a sacrifice. But I guess I sacrificed my queen. Yay. Okay, well, anyway, it's a good finish for Arthur because he doesn't have to set up a couple of his pieces. They're already set up. So that's nice. That was one of my better wins from the tournament. I don't think I did very well in the 2000 World Open, but I beat a grandmaster who's obviously past his prime, but still it's nice to beat someone with black in a nice game like this. So that was fun for me at my tender young age of, I was only 30. Wow. Seems like a long time ago. Okay, thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Donate. The more you donate, the more you learn, and the quicker our chess center will open. And we won't get kicked out of our house, and we won't be homeless. And then if I'm homeless, I'll be begging you for money on the streets. You don't want that. So you better donate now. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold with the daily video. Go Finegold. See you guys later.